Discover the pulse of AI and data at the Data Circuit Fireside Chat. Join us in unraveling technology's untold stories. Experience insights, journeys, breakthroughs, where every conversation sparks innovation, illuminating pathways in AI and data, one story at a time.
Thanks everybody for joining. I'm happy you all could join us. Never a better time to do this when everybody is winding down for the year, trying to get yourself ready for 2024, asking yourself, okay, what do I need to do in 2024? Do I need to start a new career? Do I need to jump on the AI and data bandwagon? What does he have to offer? It's around this time that we start asking ourselves this question. So a very warm welcome to everyone for joining us today. This is the AI and Data Circuit Fireside Chat. My name is Abayomi. I'm going to be your host for this exciting series. We're going to delve into the ever-evolving world of AI and data. We're here to uncover stories, share wisdom, spark innovation, spark lots of conversations that are going to illuminate the parts of technology and innovation in the world today. So today, we are not just attendees and speakers. We are explorers and storytellers, and we want to share with you real life stories. We want to share with you our own experiences, and we have just gathered around this digital earth to share experiences, challenges, our triumphs, what we went through, how we overcame it, and because we believe that answering some of these questions would help the next generation of AI and data professionals, right? Not that we're that old anyways, but hey, the next 10 years, 20 years of AI and data professionals. Whether you're a seasoned professional or you're just a curious learner or somewhere in between, these sessions are designed to inspire you, to inform you, and ignite a passion for the incredible potential of AI and data. So get comfortable. This is just a fireside chat. We're just here to have a chat. Ask questions. We have a Q&A option somewhere along here on your screens, on your mobile phones. Put your questions in there. We have a few people who have already sent their questions. Lisa, you probably have 20 questions to answer today. So I hope you have water right beside your coffee. And I have two guest speakers today. I have Lisa and Gabriel. Gabriel is going to be joining us in a few more minutes. They're going to have the mic, so they would talk all through. I'm just going to be here listening, asking questions, your host and your moderator. But a little bit about myself. My name is Abayomi. I am a solutions architect. I design blueprints for data and AI platforms. Think of it like you want to build a house. You're going to definitely get an architect to design the building, right? Because you're not going to put a toilet in the middle of your living room. So you need an architect to design and build blueprints and tell you how the piping is going to work. That's basically what I do. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I was once a software engineer in my lifetime. I was once a data engineer. I was once a business analyst. I was once a consultant in 3 different top 4 companies in my lifetime. Being an AI and data consultant, I'm enjoying it. I love it because ultimately, wherever you go, everybody talks about data. The systems we interact with every day interact with data. The apps you use on your mobile phone either are showing you data in different forms, or you are the one imputing the data yourself without you knowing. Some people call it a data solutions architect. Some call it enterprise solutions architect. It's almost one and the same thing. Yeah, but that's me in a nutshell. I'm your host for today. I would pass the mic on to Lisa to do a brief introduction of herself. Welcome again, Lisa. Happy to have you on board.
Hi. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So my bio is just as complicated as yours. Where should I start? Started with, I have a law degree. I started as a lawyer, and then my best male friend told me, encouraged me, forced me to pursue a master's in computer science. And I think it's only the Anglo-Saxon countries where you can do crazy stuff like that, where you can study something else for your bachelor and then all of a sudden do a master's in computer science. And so I did that at Imperial College in London. I was accepted, and it was probably the toughest, but at the same time, the most satisfying and beautiful year of my life. I passed it. thanks to my friends who helped me along the way. There was a lot of crying. Like the number of times I was crying in the server room because it was in there and nobody could see me. Yeah, and I met my PhD supervisor during my master's degree because I did my master thesis with a girl who introduced me to him, and yeah, and then somehow I slid right from bachelor's into master's and then into PhD, and yeah, never got out of it. Loved it. I did leave academia, but I never left teaching and researching, and had yeah, really enjoy it. And now I'm a digital nomad. So right now I'm joining you from India. Actually, it's quite late here. And next week I'll be in Thailand, where it's even later. And my main job right now is actually teaching because I love teaching. I just hate the politics of academia. And now I'm teaching corporate people, mainly in banks, how to switch from Excel to Python. Yeah, they really need it. These are the people who really need it. So I see you're laughing. And but I also do a bit of like private teaching on the side because I really love my students. So I do still have some university students whom I'm mentoring once in a while. And yeah, that's my life right now, teaching Python
Well,
and traveling.
that's quite interesting. So bank employees are switching from Excel to Python.
Yeah.
So is that everyone, or is just how does that work? Do they have prior experience in Python data science, or they're just normal everyday bankers who know how to use the Excel and are just switching to Python? How's that working? Because it's a very interesting.
That's a good question. That's a good question. So it's a mix. So there are people who did some programming in the past, but not for their job. So
Right.
like they did it because they're interested in it, or because they did it at uni, or I don't know, maybe a previous job. And you have like, those complete newbies who have never touched Python before. So yeah, so as I said, it's a mix. And the a bit frustrating part about it is that you actually have no clue what they're actually going to do it. I don't know whether it's just a seminar and they just do it to tick the box, or whether they will actually
Yeah,
switch from Excel to Python. I don't know. But yeah, at least they're
well,
trying.
that's interesting. So which means it's not just the banking sector. Anybody can switch from using Excel to using Python. Is it really now? I'm just being the devil's advocate here. How complex is it? If I have only experience in using Excel, how complex is it for me to switch to Python? Do I need an intensive 1 week or 1 month coaching to do that, or it's pretty straightforward?
In my personal experience, it obviously depends on how, maybe age. There's a bit of a correlation with age. Maybe younger people are a bit more open
Yeah.
to trying new things. In my personal experience, there's nothing hard about it. We're not talking about you having to code deep neural network from scratch. No, we're talking about like everyday tasks that you usually use Excel for. I don't know, joining two tables together, or like creating lookup tables, pivot tables. I know, doing some basic data cleaning. You don't need super in-depth knowledge of programming. I don't need you to know what a class is or what inheritance is. Not at all. We're talking about like
Yeah.
basic usage pandas, which is a Python library for data analysis and data cleaning. Again, very similar. And yeah, and then you have those people who like excel, no pun intended, at it. It's super easy for them. They just rush through those seminars because it's, I know, they just get it. And then obviously you have those who have like just scared. They're like, oh my God, code is scary. They have this weird bias that it's just for geeky intelligent people, which is absolutely not the case. And I guess for them it's hard, right? Because the courses that we're doing, they are more like seminars. They're just like for
Okay.
3-4 hours. We expect them to do it in their own pace at their own time. but not everybody can do that. And then they just can't follow along, let's say, for those 3 hours, and they just feel lost. And obviously that's very frustrating. It's a mix between
Yeah,
those
there has to
two.
yeah, there has to be a balance. And I love what you do, teaching and coaching people and helping people get into the AI and data field. It's quite fascinating. So how did that start? Is it that you wanted to be a lawyer? Please share your story.
So my parents are originally from the Soviet Union. They came to Western Europe without a lot of money. And so basically they said, if you want to study in the UK, you need to study something smart, otherwise we're not going to sponsor it. So there are not a lot of options. It wasn't even computer science, by the way, because for computer science, they would have said, just stay in Germany. That's where my parents live. It was like
Yeah.
economics, law, or I don't know, maybe medicine or something. I wasn't sure what I would get into economics because I was quite good at maths, but I wasn't sure like what the entry and requirements were. And so I thought actually law, especially common law, is actually quite a useful degree to have, and it's very fun to study. I was a big fan. I know a lot of people think law is very boring. I loved it. Like case law, common law is freaking amazing. It was so interesting. I don't regret it at all. And yeah, I got into LSE. To be completely honest, it was the only uni I got into, and a lot of people don't believe me. They're like, "What?" But it's harder to get into LSE than King's and UCL. And I was like, no, because there was like this law admissions test that was really hard, and I failed it for King's and UCL, but LSE didn't require it, so I got into LSE. And maybe also back then I still had a Belarusian passport, and LSE very values diversity a lot. And yeah, there are not a lot of Belarusians out there, so they probably like the fact that they're quite exotic passport. Although I'm white, there are also exotic white people. And yeah, so that's how I got into LSE. But towards the third year, I realized that I don't really want to be a lawyer and I want to do something else. Both of my parents were engineers. I always had it, I don't want to say in my blood, but I was surrounded by like technical people my whole life. The only thing I've never done was coding. But yeah, fun fact, I was really into hardware because this is how my parents earned their money as immigrants in Germany. So I still can fix your laptop. So if your laptop breaks down, I can fix it. And it was funny,
That's
like I
good.
sometimes faced quite a bit of bias because of that. Like we had people coming in at what we call the laptop surgery at the LSE, and I would be like, yeah, sure, I can fix it. And there were literally sometimes people telling me to my face, what? A woman can fix my laptop? No way. I'd be like, yeah, I can change your keyboard and your hard drive and whatever. And yeah, that was a very interesting experience. So yeah, computer architecture was one of my subjects because I actually understood hardware. Coding, not so much. So that was a very tough summer when I had to teach myself C++.
Yeah, that's a very interesting background. To be honest, the only thing I know about being a lawyer, no offense, the only thing I know about law, I learned while watching Suits, the series. That's everything I know about law, common law, anything that has to do with law. That's it. My background is quite similar. I studied sociology back in uni. Yeah, I studied sociology back in uni, and this was way back, graduated 2007. It's a long story. Why I studied sociology, that was back in Nigeria, and during my time studying sociology, I was actually repairing computers for people. because and I loved it. So I had full screen monitor, the very heavy monitors you could ever imagine back in the days. And we used to play games on it while in school, while in university. And anytime someone needed to repair their RAM or fix something, I was there to help them, to the point where some of my friends would tell their parents that there's someone in school who could help them fix their laptops. And it was quite fun. And if I tell people I studied sociology, they don't quite believe it. Graduated, then I went straight into software engineering. Everybody says, okay, that's impossible. You needed to have studied .NET or C# or Java or something like that. And I didn't go to school for it. What I did in the interim was I joined a company, a software engineering company, as a voluntary engineer. And I worked with them voluntarily for about 10 months to a year. And all through that time, I was learning. So I could relate with your story, to be honest. This was way back 2007, 2008. And see, everything just transitioned to data. But thanks so much for sharing your story, Lisa. I'll take a few questions. So I have a question here. And it says, what inspired you to pursue a career in AI and data? I know that you've shared how you transitioned from being a lawyer and getting your master's and your PhD, now you're coaching. Was it your friend that was the main motivation, or what else inspired you to get into this field?
Okay, so I don't want to step on anybody's toes. You're gonna hear a few controversial things from me today. Very pragmatic person. And yes, partially it was my friend, of course, who told me about this master's that I could pursue. Fun fact, by the way, sorry, I'm digressing a tiny bit, but obviously I didn't know what I would get in. So at the same time, I also applied to a master's of LSE, which was a joint master's in law and finance. And I applied for a scholarship, and they accepted me for the position, but they didn't give me the scholarship. And then when I got the offer from Imperial, all of a sudden they were happy to fund like the whole thing. Like I got a second letter being like, please stay, don't go. We're gonna like fund everything, just stay. And I was just like, no. And I never told my parents. And they don't speak English, so it's fine, we're safe here. It's gonna be a little secret. So yeah, so all of a sudden I became like a super valuable person. But I still decided, although it cost my parents and myself more money to then go to Imperial and study computer science, was because of positive discrimination. I knew that as a woman, my chances to later get a job would be better studying computer science than law. Because in law, just watching my cohort, it was like about 50-50. It was like 50% men, 50% women. But when you study computer science or engineering, actually any STEM subject, there are more men than women. And back then, I thought it would be probably more beneficial to study something where there were more men, and because it would increase my chances to get a job. Obviously, it sounds a bit, very calculated and very pragmatic. And I'm not saying that anybody should make a decision based on this only. I wouldn't be here now if I didn't actually enjoy it. But back then I didn't know what I would enjoy it. But let's assume I would enjoy it, then my chances would have been better to pursue a degree in computer science. And I was lucky, I actually did enjoy it. And for the PhD, there was an unwritten rule that they would accept one girl and one guy. But there were way more male applicants than there were applicants. That I don't want to say that's how I got the PhD. Hopefully, it's also because like I'm smart and capable. But there are also, I'm sorry, but that's life. There are also certain factors that you need to consider.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. We have a session. One of the episodes will be during this series is women in AI and data, because I understand that there's been lots of challenges for women getting into AI and data in the last couple of years. But right now it's changing, but it's still not that easy because there's this bias around it. And there's an episode which we'll be touching on that, Lisa. We have a few guests, and I'm sure you'll be part of it as well, because that's a very interesting topic. What challenges are women face in the technology field? How are they getting on, really? In terms of your education, right? So I know that you've done your master's and your PhD. Would you say that really helped you to shape where you are today in terms of your AI and data career? Or were there other courses here and there that you had to take?
So they definitely helped for, let's say, 90%. Because without the master's, I wouldn't have any sort of credentials to even go out there and look for something.
Yeah.
But in my personal opinion, and obviously like now I can say it, but I didn't know back then, and that's the case for many people, you don't know what else to do, unfortunately. There are so many courses out there. So the most, like, a course that gives you the most credentials is, especially in the UK, is something like university. Unfortunately, actually, because it costs a lot of money, and to be really honest with you, it doesn't teach you that much that is actually useful in the real life, but it gives you good credentials. But it definitely put me onto the right track. But what helped the most was definitely my master thesis and then my PhD. But I do consider myself like incredibly lucky. I'm not sure whether we have any master students joining today, or whether any master students are going to hear this talk. But what I can suggest to master students is, please, like, the way it works at UK universities, we select your master thesis is like of professors who suggest a topic. And then you tick the ones that you find interesting. And most, like, a lot of the professors, they're cool, they're considered cool, they have like cool projects, and they have some sort of reputation. Everybody wants to get their projects. But the thing is, they will not have a lot of time for you. So if you have a lot of experience already coding and you know exactly how to solve that issue, awesome, then go for it. But in my case, it was the opposite. I was like, I don't need a cool project. I need somebody who's going to have time for me. So I selected a girl. She wasn't even a professor. She was actually a PhD student, but she was allowed to take a master students, and she had a lot of time, and I was her only PhD student. And so I asked her whether I can propose something myself. And this is like the best that you can do, because you propose something yourself. So it's something that you're actually passionate about. Nobody can take it from you because it's a project, and it's going to be with somebody that you actually trust in. So I had so much support, and without her, I wouldn't be where I am today. Like, I owe her a lot, right? Because she was basically hand-holding me through my master thesis. She was like telling me what programming language to learn, which was Python. We didn't learn Python during the masters. It was C++ and Prolog, which is like super useless. And told me what papers to read. She told me, I don't know, like how to approach everything. When I had an issue with, it was a TensorFlow back then, very early stages, not very well documented. She helped me like to debug stuff. And thanks to her, yeah, I got a first. And then you had other people who had the project from the cool professors who had an awful summer because they just didn't get any help, although they really needed it. And throughout the master's, I learned all the skills that I later needed for my PhD. I got into NLP. Before that, I had no clue what NLP was. Now I'm considered an NLP data scientist, natural language processing, how to deal with data sets, how to correctly design experiments, how to do literature correctly, how to look for papers, which also is a skill because you need to know what is out there and analyze it correctly. So honestly, like, without her, kudos, I wouldn't be where I am today. But of course, at the same time, you could say, yeah, if you know exactly what you're doing, you don't need a master's for that. You could do that in your own time, but you still need some sort of mentor who helps you when you're stuck.
Yeah, we all need helpers along the way in a career. There's so many people who've come across little bits and pieces, motivated us, pushed us in one way or the other to get us where we are. There are a couple more questions from the audience. And one question is, how did you, this is a very tricky question. How did you navigate the balance between specialization and a broad skill set in your early career? That question feels really broad.
Teaching, because I like my specialization, right, which was my PhD. But then because I like teaching so much and because I wanted extra cash. So I didn't know I was good at teaching. I just wanted to earn some extra cash. But then because, I don't know, maybe because everybody in my family almost is or was a teacher. Maybe I'm just good at it. I don't know. So I started teaching first year courses because they're the easiest.
Yeah.
Introduction to logic, introduction to Java, introduction to Python, introduction to like operating systems. And this is like how you broaden your knowledge, also how you actually, in my personal case, because I had a law degree, this is also how I caught up on stuff, to be really honest. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I never had that subject doing my bachelor, so I'm just gonna teach it because it will require me to learn all the stuff I can teach the students and get paid for it. And then obviously my PhD lasted for 5 years. I didn't stick to first year courses. I did more advanced courses later. And yeah, and this is basically how I try to compensate for the lack of knowledge, given that I never did a computer science bachelor. So a couple of years down the line, I was teaching quite like advanced courses in machine learning and statistical natural language processing, where you needed to know like calculus, algebra, statistics at a good level. And yeah, that's how I spent my summers, preparing to teach those courses, basically learning stuff that I didn't know so I can then teach students.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I caught up on all the stuff that I missed while studying law.
Out. I have it. I was speaking with someone who has quite vast experience in teaching. Even though teaching seems to be a very interesting niche, it's sometimes so complicated, right? Because you would have certain students who will want to learn that skill and want to get that job ASAP. And they don't want to go through the entire process of spending 3, 4, 5 months in understanding the theory and doing that. So how do you navigate that? How do you pull those students together?
It depends where you teach, right? So I was talking about teaching at uni, and I'm sorry, there's no way around it, right? Like you need to
Yeah.
pass the exam. I don't really
Yeah.
care whether somebody wants to couple of steps, and because I agree, yeah, maybe you will never need to know how to implement gradient descent from scratch because scikit-learn does it for you, right? But still a good exercise, like you should be able to know how to do it. So yeah, and given I don't write the exams, they come from somewhere up there, like somebody writes
Yeah.
those exams and you just need to pass it. And
Yeah.
but obviously for the corporate people that I teach now, yeah, obviously we don't focus on stuff like that because it's just unnecessary. We just teach stuff that you can basically apply immediately without having too much in-depth knowledge of maths or whatever. So yeah, so I guess it depends. If when I teach my private students, where I can decide myself
Yeah.
or what to teach them and what not, I strike a balance, to be honest. I don't go too deep into the maths because it might scare them off, because usually the students that I have also come from some sort of a different background.
Yeah.
And I'm not a teacher. Like we will spend months getting you up to speed on like the nitty-gritty, but equally I don't want to do too superficial as well. So usually I show them something which is digestible if you have a high school education, something like GCSE maths,
Yeah.
and the rest would be just Python and knowing the syntax and knowing how to implement it in Python. Yeah, as I said, I try to strike a balance. I don't want you to just know in actually a good example would be naive Bayes. Like, I want you to know the formula, like the Bayes formula. It's really not hard. Like literally even somebody who has never done any maths, I can explain it to you within an hour. And I want you to understand how basic spam filtering works. Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously I also just show you some slides and explain it in a super theoretical way, but you wouldn't be able to implement it. Yeah, I would want you to be able to implement naive Bayes or KNN. But then, yeah, like I wouldn't want you to implement, let's say, a support vector machine from scratch. That's already a bit
Yeah.
more advanced. It's fine.
Yeah.
Does it? But if you can do naive Bayes and CNN, which in my opinion is literally just common sense, then you're good. Then you can be a data scientist. It's okay. The rest of Python libraries will do for you.
Yeah, I very much agree. I respect teachers, especially people who have that experience in teaching in universities and coaching experts, professionals. Hats off to all of you. It's a phenomenal field that you're in, and it's very difficult because you're dealing with people from different backgrounds, different levels of understanding, different IQ levels. It's tremendous. Now, so looking back in your entire career to now, what's that one thing you wish you had known when you started your career? What's that one thing that you, looking back, I wish I'd known this?
Yeah, I saw the question you sent it to me, and that's the one where I struggled with because I don't know. Because equally, I could say, oh, why didn't I just go straight into computer science? Maybe now I would be working at Facebook or Google. I would have this really cool software engineering job because I'd actually be good at software engineering. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not. I don't want to be a software engineer. That's why I'm in Asia right now and working remotely and do whatever the hell I want. Because I'm not a software engineer and I'm not bound to any location or any country. But I remember when I just started my PhD, that was like my dream job. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get into Facebook.
Yeah.
And it was like that for many years. I only like a couple of years, maybe 2 years ago, realized that actually changed my mind. I don't want that. I'm okay. It's not that great. Yeah, they have free food, they have a cool office. They have a lot of very intelligent people working for them. I've been to the office many times, same for Google in London. And every time I went there, like I was super inspired. Like the people who work there, yeah, they are one of a kind. Like they're very intelligent, very capable, very diverse. We have like people from all around the world. But I realized that I just wanted to be surrounded by people like that more than I actually wanted to do that job. I still didn't want to do, I don't know, writing tests, pushing stuff, seeing that it passes all the integration tests. Like I worked like that for 1 year. I really did enjoy it. I respect it, and it's very necessary. This is how good software happen. But I realized I'm not part of that. Like I made more people suffer because they had to handhold me through the process. And as I said, like I'm good at teaching. So why not pursue something I'm good at and leave the software engineering part to people who are good at that, but might be really shit at teaching. To give you an example, in my previous company, I'm a volunteer at PyCon, Germany. So it's my second year that I'm helping organizing it. And I also presented last year. And I don't know, for me, presenting was just super easy, like I enjoyed it. I had a full room, everybody loved it. And a lot of LinkedIn messages later telling me that I gave a great seminar. It was like I was talking for 1.5 hours. And my previous boss asked some other people in my previous company, oh, do you want to go as well and present something? And people were like, oh my God, no. Because they were just introverts and they don't like it and they just want to be left alone. So they're good. They're good at, but they're very good at software engineering. They can do their part, but I'm good at teaching and sharing my knowledge, and why not let me do my part? And everybody's good at different things.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. Sometimes when I'm asked that question, what's that one thing? I think my answer is similar to yours. I wish I went into computer engineering back in uni. I wish I stood my ground and stayed to do computer science or computer engineering back in school, because I think what I've achieved today, I would have probably achieved a few years earlier than now, because I've had that knowledge, all the programming knowledge back then. I would have had that. And I transitioned from software engineering to data engineering. And do you know that today, in some organizations I work with today in the UK, when I get in as a solutions architect or enterprise data architect, the software engineers always ask me one question: what do you do? They sometimes feel like they are the Avengers and we're probably just people in the back room making their computers work. And it's always it's a very interesting scenario, because even right now, people still do not value data architects. They do not value enterprise architects or what a data scientist. It's just now that people are beginning to value it because of the chat GPT and the AI and all whatnot. But back then they were like, oh, if you're not a software engineer, you're not doing anything. And they still feel that way until they keep writing codes that churn out bad data. And guess who's there to fix it? The data professionals are there to fix it. And every time I keep saying, you guys keep churning out bad data. You don't put controls in your systems. But yeah, it's good to hear that story from you because it's a similar situation I see every day in my career, and it's quite interesting. So how do you stay motivated during the more challenging periods of your career? What's that thing that keeps you motivated?
Keeps me motivated. Because I'm a teacher, obviously what keeps me motivated are my students. Because I don't know, maybe it's gonna sound a bit like rebellious, I don't know, but a company is like, it's an institution that you can't grab. It doesn't have a soul. So
Yeah.
just because like of institution is doing bad, like I wouldn't care. But because I'm a teacher, I am connected to like individual students, individual people, and I want them to do well. For my corporate clients, to be honest, like there's nothing, like there are no challenges because it's a seminar, we're done, that's it. My hands are clean. Like I'm done with the seminar, there are no follow-ups, that's it. But I have private students and I'm also creating teaching content. And yeah, there are times where I'm like, oh my God, maybe nobody will ever care. Why am I even doing this? But then that there are people out there who will actually benefit from it. And it's individuals. And because you've been individual like that yourself, this is what keeps you motivated. Because I wish there had been like the perfect data science course back in 2016. I could just watch 5 YouTube videos. Oh my God, now everything makes sense. But I had to pick like those puzzle pieces from all over the internet, from different people. And it took me so much freaking time. And now, in my opinion, I created the perfect data analysis course that teaches you all that in 2-3 hours using you don't even need to have anything installed on your computer. You can use just Google Colab, import the CSV there, because I've noticed that's a big barrier for many people. Oh my God, I don't want to install anything because in case it doesn't work, especially if you like have a Windows machine, installing Python, if you're not very computer literate, it's a huge barrier of entry. It freaks you out. Even I'm freaked out if I need to use a new software. And I recently had to edit a video for the first time. I was stressed. Oh my God, I'm using Ubuntu. What am I gonna freaking install on my Linux PC to be able to edit this video? And I'm computer literate, right? But now imagine it's like a new person who gets into the field. I want them to have a super clean entry. So preferably I don't want them to install anything. I want them to, as I said, go into Google Colab. All the libraries are installed. They can import pandas, import NumPy, whatever they need, put a CSV they downloaded from Kaggle, and start coding immediately. And and a lot of courses are not designed like that. They assume that you have a certain knowledge, but then where do you get this knowledge from? This is what I always ask myself. For some reason, there's always a bit of a gap. It's okay. Now we're all open Jupyter Notebook, and people will be like, what the hell is Jupyter Notebook? Which sounds funny for you and me, only know what Jupyter Notebook is. But then if I ask a complete newbie, they'll be like, I don't know. Where do I get it? How do I install it? What is that? And
it's a similar situation with some of the students we have today. So I don't know if I mentioned to you that we have an AI and data bootcamp running at Data Circuit. We have a couple of students, about 6 students now, and 2 of them have no experience. And so what we have to do, rather than throw them directly into the AI and data bootcamp, we had to give them a kind of prior understanding in data science. So they have to first of all take an 8-week course on data science to prepare them. And they're seeing all sorts of tools. And someone is asking, what's Jupyter Notebook? And we're like, okay, as a coach, you can't laugh, right? Because you're treating people who have zero experience. So you have to help them. It's quite interesting how the world is changing. And we have quite a few people. In the last few weeks, I've received different emails from people from different backgrounds who want to, as much as possible, set up a career in AI and data, either as data analysts or data engineers. And some of them prepared a really rough introduction on what it is. And for example, one question I have for you right now, Lisa, is a question from another attendee who says, what advice do you have for a novice who wants to get into AI and data without prior experience? How can they get into it and make it a career path? Are there any tips you have that has worked for you that you could share with them?
Definitely. I want to say one more thing though about Jupyter Notebooks, because you said like we can't laugh. What if I told you my dad has PhD in applied maths, asked me the same question a couple of years ago, is what the heck is Jupyter Notebooks? Like one of my students asked me about it. What the heck? Because it doesn't matter how intelligent and how experienced you are, he is used to writing scripts in Fortran or using MATLAB, or how he calls MATLAB. Like, MATLAB, great thing. It's just that's what used back then. Or I don't know, my mom is used to punch cards and assembly. She also doesn't know. She also doesn't know what Jupyter Notebook is. So that's what I'm saying. It's just it doesn't mean you're a novice per se. It's just something that makes it very easy and accessible. But unfortunately, it's not always so. And my favorite example, and maybe if anybody is going to see this, if specific people are going to see this episode, they're going to laugh so hard. My favorite example actually is LaTeX. When I was a law student, I wish I'd known about LaTeX, honestly, because it's just so beautiful to write perfect reports and essays in LaTeX. But what did we use? No, we used freaking MS Word or Google Docs. But for some reason, it's like preserved for the STEM students. Only STEM students use LaTeX. Although it's perfect to write essays as well. It's even better, in my opinion, or more useful even for law students because they need to reference so much, right? But for some reason, like this little bud of knowledge that we only keep for the computer science students for some weird reason. I don't know why. But literature students would also benefit from LaTeX just as much, maybe even more. So yeah, so greetings to everybody who's people will know who I'm talking about when they see this. So yeah, so it's literally just about finding the correct mentor slash friend who can just share this knowledge with you. I literally shared this knowledge on dates. I would tell guys oh, by the way, have you heard of LaTeX? Really cool. Like you should check out Overleaf. And I don't know. And I had people, who in management who never heard of LaTeX coming to me later and being like, oh my God, my professor literally admitted that he gave me a better grade because it was just so well formatted. But I can't give you an advice per se. I can't guide you towards the perfect YouTube series or the perfect Coursera course or the perfect Udemy course, right? It's just as awful as it sounds, it's partially luck, right? That you find a mentor or you find a friend who shares this kind of knowledge. Unfortunately, as I said, it's awful. I wish there were more courses, and that's what I'm trying to do now. That's partially literally why I went to Asia, where my living costs are a bit cheaper, so that I can design courses like that, where I'm hand-holding people throughout this journey of, oh, I'm at uni, I need to write a report, I've never done this before, how the hell do I do it? What's a literature review? How do I write it? How do I design experiment? What's a baseline at the end of the day? Because quite often, or actually not just quite often, the majority of the time, people don't teach you that. It comes with experience during the PhD. That's why I know it. I don't know it through my master's. Well, I do, but that's because I was lucky, as I told earlier, because I had a really great supervisor. but they don't really teach you that. It's a bit like this meme, it's drive a car. I don't know how you drive a car. You still need to drive the car. And it's exactly how
How
it
do you do
works.
it? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, at uni, it's write a report. I have no clue how to write this report. I still need to do it. And it's a shame because university in Anglo-Saxon countries is very expensive. And they
Yeah,
don't give some of the. I'm not saying that you need this knowledge later if you don't pursue an academic career. If you probably you don't, but
mhm,
still, it's a shame that you could literally fail a subject just because of the incompetency of your teacher. That they don't teach you
true.
how to design an experiment and yeah, how to write literature review and stuff like that. So yeah, but thanks. I have to say, especially in English, there is a lot of stuff out there these days. You just need to look for it. So if you use different sorts of keywords and just expressions and play around with it, you can find a lot of stuff in English on YouTube, on Towards Data Science. Actually, Towards Data Science is great because there's also, I sometimes post on Towards Data Science, there is a bit of actually a check before they let you to post on Towards Data Science, somebody will actually read it and tell you whether it's good enough. There's still a lot of like bad stuff out there, don't get me wrong, but it needs to be at least somehow linked to machine learning and data science before they let you post it. Otherwise, it's just going to end up on Medium. So on Medium, you can
Mhm.
post whatever you want, but if you want it to be on Towards Data Science, actually a real person will read it. So even I myself, when I wanted to try something out, I know in Python, Spacey, like different Python libraries, I found a lot of useful stuff on Towards Data Science. There's some good articles out there.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with you. YouTube is filled with so many videos on data science for dummies. How do you get started? AI for dummies. How do you get started? So my advice, in addition to
Yeah,
what Lisa just said, go online and search. Watch a few videos on how
yeah.
to get started, understand the different skills. There's so many skills available out there. What I'm going to do is right after this, I'm going to share a PDF document, which is one of the documents we created in Data Circuit to help you get started on your AI and data career. We'll share that with everyone so you could read it, so you could know exactly what skills you need to start looking out for. How do you get started? My advice to everyone, think long term. Think about what can you start doing now for the next 6 months to get you into that AI and data field. And it will definitely help. So I have two more questions, Lisa, before we wrap up. And after a master's in data science and AI, how do you leverage your previous experience and new knowledge to get a job in the field? So I think this relates to one of the things you just said, getting a master's, and you went straight into teaching. But for someone who doesn't want to go into teaching, I assume this is what this question is targeted at.
No,
You
of
have
course,
previous
of course.
experience here.
The way I did actually, like my first jobs were not teaching related at all.
Okay.
My first job, it was actually the best job I've ever had. I have to admit that. Unfortunately, it wasn't very long because my boss just didn't have enough funding. It was just a 3/4 project. It was my experience in NLP, and especially in non-deep learning NLP, meaning actually a lot of rule-based stuff. Because deep learning, especially now with ChatGPT, is great. Back then there was no ChatGPT. And also, although English is my third language, I think my English is not too bad. And I know English grammar really well. And actually, although I'm not a linguist, it really helped me to get my first job because of my, it wasn't legal tech. We were analyzing regulations in the UK regulations. So it was just, it was the perfect job for me. So we were analyzing UK regulations and we were trying to identify patterns and get out information. So to give you an example, we were trying to identify what regulation applies to a certain medical product. And you can do that using grammar rules. This paragraph applies to or does not apply to da, 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 da. And then you can use something called dependency parsing. Yeah, you don't need deep learning for that because grammar is actually very well structured at the end of the day. Like the words I'm using right now, they are structured in a certain way. I'm not using random words all over the place. Yeah. the sentences that I'm creating, they follow a certain structure. In that case, grammar is actually, you could almost compare it to mathematics. And using those rules, you can extract patterns. And so my first job was related to that. And so that was one of the projects. Another project was where I used topic modeling to cluster regulations together that were similar. Thanks actually to one of my master's students, I found out about the cool algorithm that worked much better than LDA. And that's also how I got the job, because my boss didn't know about that. So that was the experience. It was like partially through teaching, as I said, because one of my students mentioned that algorithm, and then I just abused that during my job interview and was like, oh my God, have you heard of the amazing algorithm that I've never used before? But and just knowledge in law and NLP. And as I said, it was the best job I've ever had, because it's something that I enjoyed, because it's also what I studied and did for most of my life, right? I did law for 3 years and then computer science for 6. And not teaching related.
Yeah. Well, that's quite interesting. For those of the members of the audience that do not understand what NLP is, can you just define what NLP is?
Of course. NLP is not neurolinguistic programming. It's not psychology. When data scientists use it, they mean natural language processing, which means that it's data science using words. So ChatGPT is natural language processing. So instead of having like a data set which is full of numbers, for example, a time series of like stock prices, it's, let's say, Twitter tweets. And I want to build a model that can predict whether a Twitter tweet is positive or negative about a certain event, about, for example, the US elections or something like that. So there's a number, there's computer vision, which is images, and then there's text, and that's NLP. So it's 3 different types of.
Things like sentiment analysis on social media to know if something is good, bad, or wrong.
Reviews, things like that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Lisa. Thanks so much for joining this session, and to the guests and the audience, thanks so much for joining. So, Lisa, what final advice do you have for the audience, and where can they find you? Because I'm sure probably a couple of people will still have a few more questions which they want to throw at you.
Of course, absolutely. Okay, so I guess my final advice would be don't be too hard on yourself, because life is stressful, and you might think that, oh, I'll take a sabbatical of 1 year and I'll get up to speed. But unfortunately, what happens is that during this 1 year, where maybe you get paid, maybe your job boss like very open to this, and you might even getting a salary, is that you end up like having a burnout or something, although you're actually officially not working, just because you set yourself too high expectations. In a new field, you have no clue how long something will take. I'm literally in this situation right now. I thought that like, oh, I have so much experience creating teaching content. I will create like so much teaching content in 3 months. I've barely created anything. It's so hard because first of all, like, we're all a bit of, we how do you call it? We want everything. We're perfectionists. We want everything to be perfect. And then, so that's one thing. And then acquiring a new skill, as I said, like I was dealing for the first time with a camera, and then you think, oh, I'll get the hang of it in a couple of weeks. No, it takes months. So like, just don't set yourself any expectations. Just go with the flow. There are a few podcasts that talk about this sort of stuff. It's 1 year is not enough to become great at something. It takes many years. So just don't set yourself any expectations. Just do it at your own pace. Take your time. Yes, there might be people who are faster than you. That doesn't matter. And eventually you'll get there. But at the same time, if you realize that it's not your thing, quit. It's fine. It doesn't make you a failure. Not everybody is supposed to be a programmer. Not everybody is supposed to be a data scientist. Give it a try. Don't give up the first day, please.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really see what actually don't enjoy it, then don't pursue it. And this is why we talked about this, by the way, before, and I'm going to say to the audience, this is why free content is so important. Before you spend a lot of money on a course, you should be able to judge whether you actually like it or not by doing some YouTube tutorials. And maybe those YouTube tutorials will already give you an indication whether you'll actually enjoy it or not. What if you just freaking hate it, which is fine, this is completely fine, then move on and do something else. Maybe you are more, for example, I'm not a designer at all, like I'm really bad. I think you could, if my life would depend on it, I wouldn't be able to make a pretty poster or something. But some people are like freaking gifted, and maybe you should move into design, like UX design, instead of data science. That's completely normal. So just try out different things. Unfortunately, I can't give advice on anything which is in English. There are a few Russian startups, in my opinion, that are doing a great job on advising you whether you should become a tester or whether you should become a data scientist or whether you should become a UX designer. I have to admit, I haven't seen anything in English. I'm watching YouTube videos in Russian, in German, and in English. All the adverts that I get on English-speaking YouTube is just better help and basically how to deal with your mental health, which is great, but that's it. But then on the Russian YouTube videos, you get a from the psychological health adverts, you get a lot of startups, that do exactly that, that provide different sort of courses, and then also provide free webinars and Zoom calls and whatever to help people decide. I haven't seen that in English, unfortunately. It seems that in the Anglo-Saxon world, people just want to make money as fast as possible. Just, you should become a data scientist. Please spend 10,000 K on this course and join us. Yeah, sorry, long story short, check out what's out there. Maybe even invest a bit of money, go on Upwork or LinkedIn, or I don't know, try to find somebody, even pay that person who can give you some sort of advice and talk to you and just tell you what's out there. Then check out different YouTube videos, try to make a judgment call whether you'll be actually interested in doing that every day for the next couple of years. And and then invest into a paid course, of course. At the end of the day, the best courses, once you make your decision, are probably not for free. But before you do that, do courses.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. Thanks so much, Lisa. And thanks so much to everyone else who joined. Lisa, would you like to be contacted on LinkedIn? How do we find you on
of course.
LinkedIn?
Sorry. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Please, I reply to any message. I'm used to it. As I said, I gave talks at different conferences and people would text me. I taught at Oxford University. I taught online at master school. Obviously, people know my last name. I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn. My last name is unique. You'll find just me and my brother on LinkedIn. Please feel free to out. I also, if you actually want to take classes or something, I'm available as well. I will in the future post some content for free on YouTube as well. Not there yet. As I said, it takes a while, takes longer than I expected.
Okay.
But if you have any sort of questions can be answered via text, and please reach out.
Yeah. I just put our LinkedIn profiles in the chat. You could find Lisa. I put her LinkedIn profile there. You could, say hi to Lisa, from here, and you could reach out to us as well. Thanks everyone else for joining. Really appreciate, and we hope that you learned a lot from this session. This series is packed with 8 different episodes. So we're meeting again this time next week, and we're going to have different speakers as well. We would have on the 21st, we would have Alex and Joseph, who would also be sharing their own stories on how they dived into the world of AI data. How did they break in? What were their challenges? What are their advices for you? And how you could also get into the world of AI and data. It could be data engineering, data analysis, data science, machine learning. And you have the time to also ask them as many questions as possible. Thanks everyone for joining. If it's in the morning where you are, good morning. It's in the afternoon, good afternoon. If it's nighttime, I hope you have a peaceful night rest. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lisa. Cheers now. Bye.
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 Thank you for joining today's episode of the Data Circuit Fireside Chat. Remember, every conversation we have is a step towards understanding the vast and dynamic landscape of technology. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes, and join us next time as we continue to unravel the mysteries and celebrate the achievements in AI and data. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and stay curious.